Salve! So today I'm going to be talking about the meter of epic poems, Datylic Hexameter. But I'm not going to be getting into the details of the mechanics and the why behind it. I'm going to be getting into the how to do this, so that when you're approaching this on a test and you're being asked to mark the meter or find out a specific information about a specific foot in the meter, you can do that quickly and efficiently. All right. If you want to look at the why and how kind of things come together, I definitely recommend the Latin tutorials video on Datylic Hexameter. So you've been given a chunk of text by your Latin teacher, and they expect you to mark off the meter. And as you can see, this is the first 11 lines of the Aeneid. All right. First off, if it's an epic poem, it's going to always be in Datylic Hexameter, and that means it'll have 6 metrical feet. All right, which will help you in your checking that you did your work right. And since it's Datylic Hexameter, you have 2 choices for the meter. It will either be a long, short, which is a dactyl, coming from the Greek word for finger. If you notice, there's a long bone and 2 short bones. We get the word pterodactyl from it as well, wing finger. Or spondy, long. All right, those are the only 2. And if you divide it up in any other way, you have to go back and relook at it. Okay. Now, these marks only occur over vowels, okay? They do not occur over the consonants. So you can only have as many marks as there are vowels in a sentence. However, Latin's a little tricky, and it gives us some vowels that don't actually count as vowels in poetry. So whenever you see a QU, that counts together. Ignore the U. It is part of the consonant, all right? So here in this que or in this qui, we don't have 2 marks here. We only have a single one, all right? Or the other one that can be tricky is I, because in Latin, I, like in English with the word Y, is sometimes a vowel and sometimes not, all right? Sometimes you have it as an I sound, but sometimes it stands in the place of the J sound. So here in Troyai, because this I is between 2 vowels, it gets treated like a J, all right? And that's where we get the word Trojan from. Or here in Ionis, because it's the start of a word and it goes I, then a vowel, it gets treated like a J. And we see that when we say the word, when we get this goddess's name in English, it's Juno, all right? So though we have to be aware of these 2 things so that we do not mark those vowels accidentally and add extra marks to our line and then throw our meter off, all right? When marking meter, okay, the first step you want to do is you want to make sure you only are marking the vowels you need. And besides checking for these, there's something in Latin called elision, okay? That happens when a vowel ends one word and starts another, or when an M, a vowel M ends one word and starts another, or when a vowel starts one word and then you have an H, but we don't have any of those examples up here. And what that does is, in the meter, you would have to pause, multum, ille, et, and you would have to pause in between each of those words and draw out the meter, but the Virgil doesn't want you to do that, and neither do the other poets, and so you have to get rid of some of those vowels, all right? So it would go like this, all right? Multilet, and it flows all together, all right? Here we have another elision, all right? Here we have another one. And so you mark it by chopping off the end of the first word, like we've done here, multum, ille, quoque, and drawing that U underneath them, all right? And there's one more down here, all right? What this means is now you don't have to put a mark over these vowels, okay? So before you start, you always scan your lines and see, are there any elisions? So you go da-da-da-da-da, you know, I to S, no, UM to S, no, AE to M, no, EM to I, oh wait, is this an I or a J? Oh, it's a J, no, S to O, no, B to I, no. All right, you do that for all the lines. Now, the nice thing about Datylic Hexameter is it follows a certain pattern, okay? It only can have 6 feet, And the final foot of the line is always going to be the same. It's always going to be a long mark plus an X. And that X is the silica anceps, which means ambiguous or undecided syllable. It could be long, it could be short, we don't know, but it doesn't matter because it always will be that same pattern. So you can start, when you're looking at your meters, the next thing you should do is mark the feet that you know have to be that like that. So, long X, long X. We'll just go down the whole line, long X, and now our fifth foot is marked off. So that's one less foot you have to worry about. All right? So now we just have 5 feet to contend with. But wait, the other nice thing about dactylic hexameters is the 5th foot, more often than not, is going to be a dactyl. It's going to be that long, short, short. All right? Now, yes, there are spondaic lines, but those are the exception more than the rule. So if you're on a test and you're like, oh no, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Know that the 5th foot probably is going to be a dactyl. All right? So you can mark off not only the 6th, but the 5th foot now. So long, short, short, long, short, short, long, short, 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 short. We'll just go down the whole line doing that. Right? So now you've reduced it from having to guess on 6 feet to having to guess on 4, or think about having to mark off 4 different feet. All right? So now that we've marked off our elisions, we've marked our final 2 feet, now we can go to the beginning and kind of work from there. All right? So in class we used Dr. Barbara Boyd's book, which she's kind enough to give us the metrical, the long marks, the native long symbols. On the AP test, they won't have those, all right? But since we're going to be using Barbara Boyd's book, we've provided the long marks here. So wherever you see a vowel that is naturally long, that has this macron over it, that also has to be marked long in the meter, okay? So you have an O here, and an I here, and an I here, and an I there, and these are long, all right? And you can go through and mark all of those long marks, okay? So what if you don't have those long marks? Well, a vowel is long in a certain situations. One, it's part of a diphthong, right? A diphthong is 2 vowels that are joined together, like the vowels AE or OE, all right? Those are common diphthongs, all right? AE is probably the most common diphthong that you have to worry about. So if it's a diphthong, 2 vowels joined together, then you mark it as long. All right? You also mark it long when it's a vowel followed by 2 consonants. So here we have an A followed by an RM, so that's got to be long. All right? Here we have a U followed by an MQ, that's going to be long. Right? So you either have it long by nature because of this macron, long by it being a diphthong, or long by position because it's followed by 2 consonants, okay? Like here, this A has an M and an F following it, it's gotta be long, all right? So the word spaces don't matter when you're marking long and shorts, okay? Because it's supposed to kind of meld together into this sing-songy pattern. Vowels are short, all right, the rest of the time. So here, it's A is followed by a V, but then another vowel, so it's got to be short. And because you can only have a dactyl or a spondee, this other I, it has to be short. All right? And then the next foot, because we have either a dactyl or a spondee, starts off long. So you can use that knowledge that these are the only 2 choices to kind of guide your marking. All right, so we'll do the first 2 lines and then I'll show you the result. We'll pause the video and show you the results for the rest so you don't see me up here just marking off feet. So here we've already marked this U, All right, we remember to ignore that U because it's got a E, or excuse me, it's next to a Q. Here we have an E followed by a C, but then an A, so that's going to be short. And therefore this A is short. All right, O has already been marked for us, but besides, it's the start of a new foot, so it has to be long. Here we have an O followed by a J, quote unquote, and then a diphthong. So that's going to be a tricky one, all right, because you want to mark it short. But if you mark the rest of your foot, you'll see that that diphthong has to be long. So this O must be long to fit the meter, all right? And then we have that I there. So then we can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There we go. We've scanned our first line of the Aeneid. So going down to the next line, you have an A followed by an L. Got to be short, and that means that I will also be short. This is we already figured out that that was long because it had M and then an F, 2 consonants, and then the A was given to us, so that's nice, and that's going to be the spondy because that's the only other thing we can have. Then we have the O already given to us, and so we look down, and we got an O followed by an F and then a U, so that's going to be a short, and that means the U has to be short. And then this this U is followed by an S and then an L. That's going to be long. So now we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There we go. All right. So by using these logical patterns, you can quickly kind of get through and figure out what is our metric meter for this line. All right. So I'm going to pause the video now and I'll show you the results of all of this. Okay. So here's our whole metrical markings for the first 11 lines of the Aeneid. All right. So you can see how to easily kind of get through all this. So a couple of things you want to remember. You want to first off remember to always elide first. Okay. You want to remember that QU, this U is not a vowel, and that I can sometimes be a J, and watch out for that. Like here, yak tatus, that is a J there, and so we don't worry about marking that I. Okay, we're only marking the A there, which is long, right? Another thing is when you're marking your meters, mark your 5th and 6th foots first, because they're almost guaranteed, and they'll get them out of the way, and then you're not going to be worried about them later on. All right. Next, when you mark all your longs, and those are either long because the macron is there, so long by nature, long by position because it's followed by 2 consonants, such as here, this A is long because it has 2 S's, or so that's long by position, or long because it's a diphthong. And diphthongs are things like our 2 vowels that sound together. Oi, I, au. All right, so here we have diphthong, OE. AE is a very common diphthong. Down here, where did it go? We had an AU, and of course, oh, here it is, causa, AU. All right, so there's several diphthongs in line. One thing to remember is I's will never start diphthongs, okay? So here, pietate, that's 2 separate vowels. You gotta be careful of that. But remember, and I's don't start diphthongs will kind of help you out with that, all right? Or you just simply go home and memorize all the diphthongs, all right? And so those, and then you can fill in the shorts as you go. And remember, it can only be a dactyl or a spondy. So if you break your foot at any other point, you're in the wrong, something's screwed up, all right? So that's our video for today. Hopefully it will be helping you guys get through the steps. Like I said, if you want more of the background and the why and kind of putting together all the pieces, Latin Tutorial has done a great video about all this already. Mine's kind of just, I need to get through marking meters really quickly. How do I do that? All right, so thanks for watching. Feel free to leave comments down below. Wale.